I mention Haute42 or Cosmox Gaming, you probably might think, yeah, they have a lot of models that use that acrylic sandwich style, right? Like the T series, the G series, the S series, and so on. Well, one of the newest products by Cosmox is the U16. And yes, there's acrylic up front, but on the back, no. And on the sides, no. It is a plastic shell on the back that you just screw this acrylic down onto. So this is a different product from Cosmox, and I'm Zeros with the arcade stick. I'm going to be going over if the U16 is a controller that beats the R16, the T16, etc. And do I prefer it, or do I still prefer some of the older models? Let's check it out. Let's get into an overview of the U16, starting with what's included with the controller itself. You do get some extra overlays. One I probably wouldn't use myself. This one's okay, but I want to custom make one of my own, or you can use our art service. And you also get some blank white ones, as well as the, of course, one that's pre-installed is a dark theme. Not sure I don't have a more balance or why I have two white ones, but yeah, you know. Anyway, you do get a little screwdriver tool for opening it up. You can change the insert. You do get the usual Haute42/Cosmox accessories, so little nubs, a spare switch, which is always nice, and the switch puller, which it's still that one that's not great. You also get the USB-A to right angle C. So I think recently they've been favoring this configuration instead of the straight cable, which is fine. You also get a little documentation with it, and yeah, it's very small print. I need my reader for this, but it's included, so there you go. Also, finally, stickers reduce lag, so here you go. Here's a set of stickers that come with it too. All right, let's get into the controller itself. So, looking here, the design of the U16 is a bit unique for Cosmox so far, in that instead of just an acrylic sandwich, you'll see that there is actually a plastic underside, so it kind of contains it. It's like some other controllers out there, but usually they are using metal, so this is lighter weight. It actually feels lighter weight than a T16 or comparable R16. And speaking of those, you definitely have that T16 layout, but kind of with the R16 smaller buttons for everything but up. And if you have smaller hands like I do, I kind of appreciate the smaller buttons here. It just makes things a little bit easier. I've noticed with the T16 layout, with the big buttons, sometimes especially going this way with Dragon Punches, I have fits. I don't know if it's, I have bad fingers here. Just this finger does not want to cooperate as well. But it seems like on smaller buttons, I do a tiny bit better. So for what it's worth, yeah, just keep that in mind. And it is the standard 16 variant layout here. So, you have the WASD, your up button, your two kind of quick select buttons, one up here as well. And then you've got these. It's almost a Vuelix layout, but in typical Cosmox fashion, it's just a slight curve down, which is very nice. 4 option buttons here, 1 turbo button over here, and the default insert does have labels for everything, so that is nice. I like that. Of course, with GP2040, you can remap anything you like, practically. There may be some limitations here with, these guys, but on the whole, yeah, should be pretty remappable. What else do we see? Up top, we have all the points of usual, like a T16 or R16, so same amount of mounting screws, except instead of having those carriage bolts or binding screws, whatever you want to call them, they just use top-mounted screws because of the undermounted plastic kind of shell. Other than that, there's nothing really on this side or this side of interest. There is, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect, the USB-C connection as usual and pass-through port as usual. So I always appreciate these features. Keeps the controller nice and slim, and you can see just how slim it is here. I'd say it's easily on par with the R16, maybe even thinner. I'll have to take a look. Anyhow, on the back though, it's pretty blank. You do have the little boot cell button, so if you have a sim tool or some other small thing to get in there and reset in case a flash goes wrong, then it makes it easy. You don't have to disassemble it and get to the board and do all that nasty stuff. Just poke there, insert your connection, and do what you need to do. Otherwise, you do have 6 rubber pads pre-installed, so that's great. You don't have to fiddle with it. Sometimes on the acrylic sandwich models like the T16, like the R16, that can feel a little less premium to do. So having these in here stock is kind of nice. But otherwise, that's pretty much all I'm noticing here so far in the overview for the U16. So let's move on. Let's get the dimensions of the U16. So measuring across, we're about 11.5, just shy of inches, or about 290 millimeters. And then if we go on the vertical, we're measuring about 7 3/4 or 194 millimeters. And if we're measuring widthwise here, break out the calipers, we do get just over 0.4, almost half an inch, and that translates in about 12 and change millimeters. But if I include a button just to go for the maximum height, then I'm getting, hold on, there we go, almost 3/4 of an inch, or about just shy of 19 millimeters or so. So, yeah, it is a pretty svelte guy. Though it has a good lap play size, it's pretty thin. Reminds me of the R. Let's do a weight on the U16 then. We're getting 1 pound, 4 ounces, which is a little over half a kilogram. Now, when I weighed the R16, it's actually a few ounces heavier, so this is lighter than those two. I want to do some actual comparisons to other Cosmox products because it really helps to see it more in context rather than, oh, here's some numbers, right? Anyhow, here's an M12 Plus. It is Cosmox's largest controller, and here's my hand size for comparison. If I overlay the U16 here, you'll see that a lot like the T16 and R16, you get this little bit of edge, so it's still a little bit bigger. And most interestingly, if you overlay an R16, it is the exact same size. It's edge for edge, it's matching. So yeah, if R16 or T16, you were considering that because you like that size, well, you'll probably like the size of this too. Now, I did check to see which of these between the U16 and the R16 is thinner. The R16 has it beat, but barely. I mean barely. It is minuscule. So, that being said, let's put a P12 here. And just so you can see the difference here, just overlay my hand. Yeah, quite a bit more room, of course. And if we flip it this way, just to almost capture everything inside. I bet a G or S series will fit vertically just perfectly that way. But there's a comparison of the relative sizes of this controller versus other controllers. Let's take a look at the internals of the U16. Now, there are 9 of these screws, I've already removed them, that require a Torx 6. And that is included in the package, but if you have a fancy screwdriver like mine, might as well use it. Anyhow, once that's out, you can kind of just carefully dump it out. Usually I work with a towel, but I'll just forego that for now. All right. So you can see the inside here, and yeah, we've got the little artwork layer, and this is the top acrylic. Now you can probably snap out these button rings. So if you want to maybe cut your own acrylic, this looks like it's a little thicker than 1/16. You can move them over if you like, but there's not a lot of options in that narrow size.
Anyhow, let's go ahead and show you what switches they're using. Haute42/Cosmox has really been moving towards these crystal switches, and these are polycarbonate and really let the light get through. With on this model, since you have these black caps that are not see-through, they're opaque, that maximizes your light transmission for the LEDs underneath. I'm gonna get one of these removed here, so one moment. Getting one of these switches popped from this side requires a pretty thin tool. I'm just using a knife, which is maybe not the best, but it's here. Anyway, once you got that, you can pry it off. And on the underside, as usual with these boards, you have a single LED and just prongs for the switch to go into. So we can put that back and replace the cap. Just line up the cross with the cross and it's in. So let's see if we can dig deeper. I'm going to remove these screws and see if I can't get further in. I'm back, and I did remove these 6 screws here. However, try as I might, I tried shaking it, tried plying it apart a bit. This just will not release, unfortunately. So, yeah, I don't want to risk breaking my review unit this early on, especially. Anyhow, I did notice that there are a couple extra holes here, which presumably means there'll be a U13 and a U12 perhaps, and that will be L3 and R3. So since those are used out here and to keep us quasi-tournament legal, we don't have them here. Anyway, I'm going to reassemble this. Now to insert a different insert or your own artwork, it's really easy. Let's presume I put those screws back in. You just replace it, drop it in, and then put the cover on, screw it down, you're done. So that makes art changing fairly easy. Given these plastic screw holes though, I would not want to do it too often. Metal ones just give me a little bit more reassurance, but I understand you have you want to have a little bit of cost reduction, so you use plastic. And I still like the general structure, so just know that I would not want to take this apart too many times. So get a look you want and leave it alone.
Tired of your bare and boring fight stick? Want a look that sets your controller apart? Need an artist to help make that happen? Do you want to rep your favorite characters or games on your stick? We can help. From collage style to full custom art, the Arcade Stick has you covered with options at several price points to help make your custom fight stick dream a reality. To learn more, head on over to thearcadestick.com.
Let's start our basic acceptance testing, starting with our flexion and just kind of some durability stuff as well as slide testing. So just to press down, I'm not getting much at all, so that's good. Anyway, let's try and break stuff by bending it. Not really happening. I'm applying a decent amount of force, so that's good. And it does have a little bit of sliding on the foam. It's about what I expect, so it's not horrible. But let's try it on the bare desk. And yeah, it does take a little bit more effort, more friction. Now I will say in my playtesting in the lap, because of this bottom surface here, it is pretty smooth, and obviously in a lap play situation, these are not providing too much grip. The solution would be like a whole back of the controller foam pad or some such, which of course this doesn't have by itself. And again, I kind of expect we might see that on Focus Attack sometime, like a peel and stick or something like that. Okay, now I'm going to do some just button mashing, and that'll let you also hear how the default buttons sound. Okay, let's just do some Grand Blue stuff. So, doing some technical inputs just to show, yep, things work. And just a dash, back step.
So yeah, in my testing, I found that yeah, it feels pretty nice, especially to me. If you're got smaller hands, again, the smaller buttons probably might fit you better. If you're used to a name brand hitbox, then this is a more faithful layout, I suppose, just with the 24mm up top and the 30mm for up. I don't really have much set for these guys, but you could definitely make that, say, sidestep or whatever you like. So most of it, if you notice the button presses in the sound test and even this, sound pretty quiet. They're not, anything obnoxious. And of course, if, the linears aren't your thing, the crystals aren't your thing, you can replace them. However, if you replace the switches and it doesn't let a lot of light through with these black keycaps, so you might need to get some other ones to fill in there. So, yep, there's some quick gameplay. I found that, yeah, it feels pretty good. Sometimes I have problems doing, yeah, I still do, not perfect, but I'm a little bit better on this setup versus, say, a T16, just because the size of the buttons seem to just cooperate with me just a little bit more. So if you have that problem, and yeah, I know Rising, you don't really need to do that, but I still kind of die hard about doing my inputs. So there you go.
Next up, let's do a quick Steam Deck check. And as usual, I do recommend X input on GP2040 when interfacing with Steam Deck, and GP2040 fully compatible with Steam Deck. As you can see, I'm moving around in the OS just to show that off. Now, because Cosmox includes an A to C cable, I am using a little adapter that also has power delivery. So this is the cable you're seeing right now, just giving me power. Anyhow, I also like to set this up as compact as possible. You're playing on a small console, you might be in a situation where you just need a very small environment, so here we go. Now I'll talk about the dimensions here in a second, but you've seen it work in the OS. So let's jump into a game just to show you that. And while that's loading, let's talk about the dimensions you're going to need. So I am using a right angle cable to save on some space, and you're really limited by about the size of the Steam Deck. The U16 is about the same size, so maybe a twinge bit wider. So that's about 11.5 inches or 290 millimeters. Now depth-wise, you're going to need about 11 inches or about 280 millimeters. Now that can vary based on the stand you use, etc. So it could be a little bit different from what I've got. I've got a pretty generic stand that doesn't have any fancy features. It's just here, put your Steam Deck in. Now you can use an A or a C to C cable. You'll be just fine. GP2040 works all the same. And let's go into options. And as you can see, it works in game. And once again, recommend X input. And don't forget, if you need a little converter or a little hub, you're going to need that when you travel. Otherwise, yeah, it's could be cramped in a really tight environment, but in most situations, you're not going to be set up that way.
Okay, one thing I like to do is just check online documentation. Now, I think this is still early on, so we may not find it. And I'm using a private window just to kind of not have any bias. And let's check Google to see if I say Cosmox U16. So we've got some videos. The first things we're getting are Etsy, and we're not really getting their page, unfortunately, which I'd really like to see on the first page of results, but it could be just it's too new. I'm not really seeing it. So let's just skip over to Cosmox Gaming.
And yeah, the U is here. Just freshly listed. This is pretty new. And we've got some of the cool marketing copy and stuff like that. Now, is anything offensive? Windows 10 or above, okay. 3, 4, that's true. Switch is true. Now for 4, you do need the little add-on. Would be nice to have a little note about that here for PlayStation 4 and 5. I mean, yeah, you can use the files method, but that's kind of evil juju stuff. Don't want to touch that. So, X component, yeah, that's all correct. Wired is correct. There's that. Yeah, nothing here is really offensive. Let's go to support just to see what's there. Okay, latest firmware is here. That's good. So you could search for this, but it's right on their homepage, so that's nice. Okay, what's export? So there are some commonly asked questions here. That's cool. And this is a new page, but we don't have a U16 selection here, unfortunately. It does look like they are carrying art templates now, but we'll see if they arrive for the U series. Let's talk about what I liked, didn't like, what we can improve upon, and so on with the U16. And again, I'm going to break this up into different focus areas, starting with build and build quality. So let's talk about the build. Now again, it is that plastic shell with an acrylic top screwed in and an underlay. Now you kind of do want to use one of the included ones at least if you don't get your own printed up. And again, if you're looking for your own, check out the arcade stick. We have a number of artists that can help you out with that. At the time of this recording, the template is not available, but I expect in the near future that it will be, hopefully posted on their website and not just the Discord. And they've been good about providing PDF ones, so if you want to laser cut your own or something like I like to do, then you can use that file to get that going. Anyhow, the feel of it is, I mean, the buttons feel okay, they're fine. I'm getting used to the R16 setup, and this is very similar with the button rings and the small caps everywhere except for up, which for someone with smaller fingers and hands, it really helps me out. Just getting, usually when I'm doing DPs this way, it's just a little bit more confidence inspiring, and I might get one more than I usually do. Because for some reason, this finger just always feels weird and weak unless I switch over, then it's more consistent. I have found versus the T on the U16 and the R16, because I have small hands, this is a better fit. Anyhow, in the lap, it just feels kind of lightweight. I would like more presence, and because of the smooth plastic here, it does want to slide around whether I'm wearing shorts or whatever. So will I probably put grip tape on the bottom? Yes, and that'll alleviate that. I'm sure in the future there'll be foam pads available. But with the lower weight versus the R and T16, you definitely notice that it's more ephemeral. If you like something that's super lightweight, maybe this is for you. But for me, I just want a little more heft. So I think I'd have to figure out a way to add that. So when it comes to build, I do have a kind of wish list set. And this is all based on the Lightfox Totally Spoiling Me, which is a video that should be coming after this one. Anyhow, the plastic body, I understand why it's used to save money, to save weight. It's not nearly as expensive to do this in metal, which is what the Lightfox is in, and it just spoiled me. So I would love to see this outer and bottom case be made of metal, but with a rubber layer on bottom that's very smoothly and nicely implemented, which the Lightfox has. And keep the acrylic layer on top. This is, of course, good. I do like the button rings, so let's keep that. Just adding that rubber and metal layer, I think, will add a lot. And yeah, that could definitely be a deluxe model. A couple other things on build. Yes, this is using the Chalk V2 switches, which I've come to accept, and I like them a lot better. These do use the
Cosmos crystal switch by default, but anything that's Chalk V2. So if you like the low freeze, which I like, or Kale's own rendition of that. There's also the Chimpanzees by SGF. There's the Deep Sea series now. So there's a lot more options when it comes to the V2s than there were in the past when I did controller views that had them. And the options are a lot nicer. I really like the full palm options. They're just a lot smoother to work with. But the included crystals are, I'd say, pretty good. They're a step up from the V2 Reds, I feel, just a twinge bit firmer. It's not dramatic, the improvement, but the nice improvement really is the light transmission. And on here, where you have dark rings and a dark top, you really need something that lets that light through, and the crystal switches do that. Other little things, I pointed out in internals, these do use plastic screw holes around here, which, again, if you're not disassembling this every other day, it should be plenty fine. They should hold up. But, I don't know, I wished for metal. As far as, again, firmness, it's firm up top. Though I feel like if I put some real effort, I can bend it. But it's holding up. So the construction is decent. Anyhow, I'm questioning why we're going with Torx bit screws, especially something this small. It's not a tool that a lot of people have. Yes, the screwdriver does come included, and yes, you could throw it in your laptop sleeve or whatever you use for this guy. However, I guess because they just look a little classier. I don't know. So I get it. It's kind of just one of those observations, not really a pro, not really a con. But if Torx bits somehow offend you, well, now you know. Let's go into features and what I liked about them and what I don't. And of course, it's Cosmos, so you have kind of that usual Cosmos array of features, which is, you've got the status screen, you've got a dedicated turbo button, which is always nice, lots of option buttons, the extended button array. Don't know if the U series is going to have like a 12 and 13 variant, so if tournament viability is a thing for you, then I don't know if there's going to be that yet. Maybe there will be, I don't know. You also have the pass-through port, and it's using GP2040, so it performs really well, compatible with Steam Deck, which is always nice. So you have kind of the usual goodies, and yeah, not too much to complain about. They've just kind of standardized on this array of features for the most part. I would like to see an extra option button for function now. I'm just getting picky about that because it's something you can assign in GP2040 to do stuff for you. And then you can program your own hotkeys. So having that extra button would be nice. It's just a would be nice thing. Next up, let's talk about customization. And yeah, you have a top acrylic layer, and it's obviously designed to hold these under layers. Again, I feel like because this is kind of a pre-release, we're going to see the artwork template available soon. Hopefully it'll be posted on the website proper and not just something you have to go on Discord for. Also, I expect, just like a lot of the other Cosmos models, we'll see this up on Focus Attack. So those of you in the US and nearby, you can get it printed and cut and shipped for a reasonable rate. And hopefully they'll also have the bottom pad if you like the squishier feel. Now, I think it would be nice if you can get the U16 with different caps. I would rather like the either clear-ish or the smoke-colored. So it's a little less opaque. I like the LEDs to show through. I want, them to light up a bit more than what we get here, but that's a wish list item. I know their caps have been put out there on AliExpress and other places. They're a bit pricey. However, I don't know if the smaller size is out there yet. I'm anticipating that they will be, but I've only seen these large sizes out there so far. And they usually sell in packs of 8, so I don't know. Anyhow, As far as other customization stuff, yeah, you've got this top layer of acrylic, and theoretically you could cut your own if you're into laser cutting like I am, but you'd have to remove all the rings and snap them into the new acrylic, and at 1/16 inch, there's not as much variety as, say, the 1/8 inch. Anyhow, I've already talked about the Chalk V2 switches, so if you want other switches, you have now a better range of options, not, of course, matching like MX standard switches, but still a lot better than we did in the past. Next, let's move into portability and size. And yeah, it's a thin one, so I haven't had any problems in most of my setups taking this out. I'll throw it in my side bag and I'm good to go. So these guys, of course, they have a tradition of being pretty thin and reasonably sized, or if you want something smaller, there are the G series, S series, etc. And I do want to show you, I got one of these bags at Daiso. If you have one of those in the area, they may still carry them. This is 13-inch cushion case, and they have others in stock usually, so it fits very comfortably in there. Anyhow, it's pretty lightweight, as you can see, between the big boy Cosmox units, the M plus, the T, the R. This is the lightest weight one, so if that's something you need, then yeah, it's just a pound and change, really. I personally like having a little bit more weight, but if I really was going to be going for a multi-day event where I just need to save weight as much as possible, then I might think about taking this. It feels pretty good for lap play at the size it's at. I don't have a problem there. I think more of the problem is just I want more grippiness on the bottom, which I've already talked about. And it plays fine on the table as well, given the size. And you have, a good amount of wrist room if that's important to you. I'm usually kind of coming down more, so I don't play a whole lot on the table. However, again, if it's important to you, it's important to you, and it's there. Up next is documentation, and again, they've done a pretty good job, at least with the printed documentation. They're not listing this one on their website as of this recording, but if their track record is anything to go by, most of what you need is on the website, although I would like to see the art templates posted there if they're not already. And I anticipate, again, that we'll see the art template and printing services and all that available on Focus Stack soon. Up next, I want to talk about value, and well, since this is pre-release and I don't have a dollar value on how much this is sell for, it's kind of hard to make a judgment call because I need to know the price versus performance ratio, right? Well, I feel like if they can keep the price at a reasonable rate, this guy will be another big seller for Cosmox. It has all the standard features in a good size, and it's probably a little easier to customize just by removing screws, pulling off the top, and you drop in your new art insert, right? It's slightly harder to do with, they say, R&T series because you have to remove the carriage bolts, pretty much take apart a lot of the layers, sort of, and put them back together without, crossing screws or messing things up, whereas this is just a little bit easier. Not, a whole lot. I think the bonus of the included accessory kit is nice. I mean, the included switch puller is meh, and the included cable is passable, so you probably want to upgrade those. But overall, you're getting a good unit, and if they can keep the price on par with, say, the RT, you're still getting good value. Some miscellaneous pros, cons before I wrap up are, first, I'd like to see the move to completely just be Cosmox. Right now we have a little Haute42, we have some Cosmox. I mean, this is pretty much the Cosmox label. However, not everything is put on the Cosmox side yet, and I'd just like them to go forward and do that. Other things I'd like to see is, they are very fond of naming things, a letter and the number, and it makes sense. Usually, like, you have the M16, Metal 16, and sure, I get it. However, if we're going to commit to that Cosmox label, I'd like to see them name things after, cosmic stuff, right? So something could be the Regulus 16, the Sagittarius 13, whatever. You know, you can differentiate the product lines that way, and I think it's just a little more exciting to say, I have a Sagittarius 16 or whatever. I know, maybe it's silly, maybe it's cringe. And still have the model name attached, but just the common name be something like that, right? Anyway, just food for thought. Now, on that note, though, I would like to see Cosmox join kind of the big boys like PXN and Hori, etc., in that, you know, they have printed model names and serial numbers on, you know, the bottom or somewhere, so that, you know, if you have to report one for service and you say, hey, this is my serial number, I registered it here, is it still under warranty or not? You know, something like that, right? It just gives it a little bit more seriousness instead of just, you know, a blank empty plate. Final verdict time. Is the U16 worth your time, your money, and your consideration? And let's look at the positive, you know, people that I think will like it most. You know, maybe you've looked at the T16, but you have small hands and you still like that Cosmox feature set, you like the extra buttons, you like the status screen, LEDs, pass-through port, all that good stuff for the low price. Well, now you have the U16, which will do that pretty well and has the smaller buttons. I found on playing the U16, I can do things better, just a little bit better. Like Dragon Punches to the left really seemed to be a thing for me to get down for some reason on Leverless, and this guy and the R16 both help me out just a little bit because the buttons are smaller for my tiny hands. If you have larger hands, then, you know, the T16 Classic or Pro might be better suited for you, but again, if you're in my camp, then U16 might be worth looking at. So what holds the U16 back to me? Again, I've already talked about it in pros cons, but it's just the new design I feel is not as good. It just doesn't feel like it has as much presence as it should. I would like the shell to be maybe just a little bit thicker. I'm just a little bit paranoid that it's more breakable or whatnot than, say, the good old solid acrylic sandwich method. Yeah, I know this is a little bit better looking on the edges, but I'm more concerned about function. I don't know. That's me. Now, is it a bad controller? No. It's just that, again, I'm spoiled by the Lightbox. I want that metal body. I want that rubber pad on the back. And yeah, I know that could be in a premium version, and this would be a budget version. That's fine. That's great. It's, again, it just feels held back by that. Now, does it play fine? Yes, it plays just fine for me. It's definitely worth considering. It's just that if you like something with a little bit more weight in your lab, that you can really feel it, then U16 might not satisfy you, at least out of the box. You might be able to put some small weights in it, I'm not sure. And then I feel like the back, again, it skids a little on the lap. You can solve that with some grip tape. So there are ways to fix the problems that I brought up. So if you like that Cosmox feature set, you like the T16 layout in the smaller buttons, then yeah, maybe the U16 is for you. Hey everyone, you know what time it is. I've got a kitty, and he's cute and adorable, and yeah, I've got a YouTube refrain to go through. We want your likes, your comments, and your subscriptions. So if you found the video content informative, humorous, insightful, whatever, please leave that like, and of course you can leave a like just for Tony. He'll appreciate it. And also, if you have questions, suggestions, you know, my favorite part was, whatever, please leave those in the comments below. We really appreciate that too. And finally, if you don't want to miss out on future content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We really, really appreciate that. So thanks for watching the video, and Tony says, If you don't do the YouTube refrain, he's gonna get you.
The arcade stick.